Skin deep, I used to believe beauty was a shield that could protect me from life's cruelties. Standing before my vanity in my darkened bedroom, I traced the silvery scars that now decorated my face like scattered constellations. My fingers lingered over my right eye, permanently clouded, a constant reminder of the night that changed everything. I, Cardigan Matthews, once crowned the most beautiful woman in 3 states, could barely look at my own reflection. The doctors had done their best after the accident. "A miracle you survived," they'd said, as if that should comfort me when half my face lay in ruins. The same people who had once fawned over me now spoke in whispers, their pity more unbearable than their judgment. My modeling agency dropped me. My so-called friends stopped calling. Even my fiancé couldn't hide his relief when I broke off our engagement. The autumn wind whispered through the ancient trees of Moonhaven Village as I pulled my hood closer, shielding my face from curious glances. 6 months had passed since I'd fled here, leaving behind the glittering world of beauty pageants and social media fame. In this remote corner of the world, where mist clung to the mountains and legends still danced in the shadows, nobody knew my name or my story. I preferred it that way. The bell above the door chimed softly as I entered the local apothecary, seeking my monthly supply of healing salves. The shop always captured my imagination. Dried herbs hanging from rough-hewn beams, bottles of every shape and size catching the light like captured stars, and the perpetual scent of sage and sweetgrass dancing in the air. Ancient books lined the walls, their spines bearing titles in languages I couldn't read, and crystals hummed with a subtle energy I'd grown to recognize during my visits. Ah, the mysterious lady returns. The voice, warm and rich like honey over thunder, belonged to Arlo, the enigmatic shopkeeper. I'd never seen anyone quite like him, tall and lean, with silver-streaked black hair that seemed to move of its own accord, and eyes that shifted color like opals in sunlight. His clothes, though simple, held an otherworldly elegance that spoke of places beyond the ordinary world. "Just the usual," I mumbled, keeping my face turned away. But Arlo, as always, moved into my line of sight with the grace of a cat. Today his eyes swirled with flecks of amber and gold, reflecting the warm light of dozens of enchanted lanterns that floated near the ceiling. "The usual isn't working, is it?" he asked softly. "Those scars carry more than physical pain. They bear the weight of a life interrupted, of dreams shattered like the mirrors you've hidden away." Something in his voice made me look up, really look at him for the first time. His eyes had settled on a deep violet, and within them, I saw not pity, but understanding. My carefully constructed walls began to crack. "Nothing works," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I've tried everything. Creams, serums, experimental treatments, even meditation and crystal healing. Nothing can erase what happened that night." "Perhaps," Arlo said, moving to a wall of bottles that seemed to arrange themselves at his approach. "You're trying to erase the wrong thing." He selected a crystal vial filled with what looked like liquid moonlight, its contents swirling with colors I had no names for. "This isn't for your scars, Cardigan Matthews." I froze at the sound of my name. "How did you—" "I know many things," he interrupted gently, "including the fact that what you seek isn't found in salves or potions. Your true healing lies in a journey, one I can help you take if you're brave enough." I should have been skeptical. I should have run. Instead, I found myself asking, "What kind of journey?" Arlo smiled, and the room seemed to brighten. The floating lanterns pulsed with increased warmth, and the crystals sang more clearly. A magical one, of course. Through realms where appearance means nothing, where truth shines brighter than any mirror, and where you might just find what you've lost, though it may not be what you think. "You're talking about actual magic? Like spells and enchantments?" "I'm talking about truth, Cardigan. The deepest kind of magic there is." He extended his hand, the vial balanced delicately between his fingers. "Are you interested?" I stared at the swirling liquid, remembering the countless treatments and procedures I'd already tried. "What's the catch?" "Only that you must trust me completely and be willing to see yourself as you truly are, not as others see you, or even as you see yourself now. The journey will be different for you than for anyone else who has taken it. Magic shapes itself to the soul that seeks it. Perhaps it was desperation, or maybe the hypnotic way the potion caught the light, but I found myself reaching for the vial. As my fingers brushed against his, a spark of electricity shot through my arm, and the liquid within the crystal container gleamed with my reflected face, whole and unscarred, yet somehow different from my former beauty. "When do we start?" I asked, my heart racing with possibility. "We already have." Arlo's smile turned mysterious as he gestured toward the back of the shop. The beaded curtain parted of its own accord, revealing a doorway that hadn't been there before. Beyond it lay not the expected storage room, but a path winding through a forest bathed in ethereal blue light. Ancient trees stretched toward a sky filled with unfamiliar stars, their branches intertwining to form natural archways overhead. My heart jumped into my throat. "Right now? Magic waits for no one, my dear." He offered his arm, and I noticed intricate patterns shifting beneath the surface of his skin, like living tattoos made of starlight. "Shall we?" Taking a deep breath, I slipped my hand into the crook of his elbow. As we stepped through the doorway, the familiar scents of the apothecary faded, replaced by the crisp sweetness of night-blooming jasmine and something else, something wild and ancient that made my skin tingle. The forest around us pulsed with life. Tiny lights, like earthbound stars, floated between the trees. The ground beneath our feet was carpeted with moss that glowed with each step, creating patterns that spread outward like ripples in a pond. Flowers I had never seen before bloomed in our wake, their petals transparent as glass, but stronger than steel. "Welcome to the Twilight Realm," Arlo said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Here, things are not always what they seem, and seeming is not always what is true. This is one of the many spaces between spaces, where magic flows more freely than water, and transformation is as natural as breathing." As if to demonstrate his point, a nearby bush suddenly transformed into a cluster of butterflies, their wings shimmering with impossible colors, before they dissolved into mist. The mist reformed into delicate crystal chimes that played melodies I felt in my bones rather than heard with my ears. "Why are you helping me?" I asked, clutching his arm tighter as we followed the winding path deeper into the magical forest. "What could you possibly gain from this?" "Because everyone deserves to see their own light," he replied, helping me over a stream that flowed upward instead of down, its waters carrying memories that flickered like fish beneath the surface. "Even those who think it's been extinguished. Besides, you're not the first to seek transformation here, nor will you be the last. There have been others, many, though each journey is unique to the seeker." His expression darkened momentarily. "Some find what they're looking for. Others, well, let's say that not everyone is ready for the truth magic reveals." We walked in comfortable silence until we reached a clearing. In its center stood an ancient tree, its trunk twisted into the shape of a doorway. Through it, I could see what looked like my own reflection, but something was different. Deeper, more real than any mirror I'd ever looked into. "The mirror of truth," Arlo explained. "It shows not what you are, but what you believe yourself to be. Every person who steps before it sees something different, something that speaks to their deepest beliefs about themselves." I approached cautiously. The reflection that greeted me was grotesque. My scars appeared deeper, darker, like canyons carved into my flesh. My blind eye was a pit of darkness that seemed to swallow light, and shadows writhed across my skin like living things. "This is how you see yourself," Arlo said quietly, standing behind me. "But it's not what I see." "What do you see?" I whispered, unable to look away from the horrible image. Instead of answering, he stepped closer, his chest barely touching my back. His hands came to rest lightly on my shoulders, and suddenly the reflection began to change. The scars softened, becoming silver threads that caught the light like strands of precious metal. My blind eye transformed into a pool of swirling colors, like a galaxy contained within an iris. The shadows retreated, replaced by a gentle luminescence that seemed to emanate from within. "I see strength," he murmured, his breath warm against my ear. "I see someone who has endured pain, but hasn't let it break her. I see beauty that runs far deeper than skin, beauty that transforms rather than fades." Tears slid down my cheeks as the reflection continued to shift, showing me moments from my past. Not the pageant wins or modeling shots, but times I'd shown kindness to others, moments of genuine laughter, instances of courage I'd forgotten. I saw myself comforting a fellow contestant who'd lost a competition, teaching young girls about self-confidence, volunteering at shelters even when cameras weren't around. "The first step to healing," Arlo said, turning me gently to face him, "is understanding that your worth was never in your face. It was always in your heart, your spirit, your capacity for kindness and growth." Looking into his eyes, which had turned a soft gold in the magical light, I felt something shift inside me, like a key opening a lock I hadn't known existed. The world around us seemed to pulse in response, the magical energies of the realm dancing more vibrantly. Our magical journey continued through landscapes that defied description. We crossed a bridge made of woven moonbeams, where each step created ripples of light that spread out into the starlit void below. We visited a garden where flowers sang lullabies in ancient languages, their petals changing color with each note. In a crystal cave that amplified thoughts into visible shapes, Arlo taught me to craft simple spells. "Magic," he explained, guiding my hands through the motions, "is simply the art of seeing possibility where others see limitation. It's about understanding that everything, every person, every object, every moment, contains multiple truths, multiple potentials." As days blended into weeks, I found myself looking forward to our lessons, not just for the magic, but for Arlo's presence. He had a way of making me forget my scars, of helping me see beauty in unexpected places. When he looked at me, I felt whole again, not because he ignored my injuries, but because he helped me see how they had transformed rather than destroyed me. But it wasn't all enchantment and wonder. One evening, as we rested beside a pool of singing water, its surface reflecting impossible constellations, a shadow fell over our sanctuary. The temperature dropped, and the magical lights flickering around us dimmed to barely visible embers. "What do we have here?" a voice like crackling frost said. "Teaching another student, dear brother?" Arlo stiffened beside me. "Marlo." A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman with Arlo's high cheekbones and shifting eyes, but where his features held warmth, hers were sharp with cruel intention. Her hair moved like living shadows, and her gown seemed made of crystallized darkness. "Don't you remember what happened to your last student?" Marlo's gaze fixed on me, and I felt my scars begin to burn. "How many more must you break before you learn?" "That was your doing, not mine," Arlo said, his voice hard as he stepped between us. Power radiated from him now, making the air thick with potential. "I merely showed her the truth, that magic always comes with a price." Marlo smiled, and it was beautiful and terrible. "Shall I show this one too?" Shall I reveal what really happens to those who seek transformation without being worthy of it? Before either of us could react, she flung out her hand. Dark energy crackled through the air toward me, promising to strip away not just the progress I'd made, but everything I was. Without thinking, I raised my own hands, remembering Arlo's lessons about possibility and limitation, about multiple truths existing simultaneously. The darkness hit what felt like an invisible wall before me, fragmenting into thousands of tiny butterflies that dissolved into starlight. Both Marlo and Arlo stared at me in shock. "Impossible," Marlo whispered. "You're just a human." But I understood then what Arlo had been trying to teach me all along. "No," I said, standing taller. "I'm someone who finally sees herself clearly. Someone who understands that scars can be strength, that broken things can be beautiful, that transformation doesn't mean erasing what was, but building something new from it." Power flowed through me, not dark like Marlo's, but bright and warm like sunlight on water. The scars on my face tingled, and I watched in amazement as they transformed into streams of light that danced around me like cosmic ribbons. My blind eye, rather than being a weakness, had become a window to seeing magic itself. "You see, sister," Arlo said softly. "True magic isn't about power or price. It's about transformation. Not of the body, but of the heart. Not about becoming something different, but about revealing what was always there." Marlo's form began to waver. "This isn't over," she hissed before dissolving into shadow. "Some truths are too harsh for love to overcome." In the silence that followed, Arlo turned to me with wonder in his color-changing eyes. "In all my years of teaching, I've never seen anyone channel pure light like that. You didn't just resist her darkness, you transformed it." "I had a good teacher," I said, stepping closer to him. "One who taught me that what we think of as flaws can become our greatest strength." Arlo reached out, tracing the now luminous lines on my face with gentle fingers. "Your scars," he murmured. "They've become channels for your magic. The very things you thought broke you have made you more powerful than you could imagine." "Is that possible?" "With you, I'm beginning to believe anything is." His hand cupped my cheek, and I leaned into his touch. "You've transformed more than just yourself, Cardigan. You've reminded me why I fell in love with magic in the first place, because it shows us the truth about ourselves, if we're brave enough to see it." Looking into his eyes, which had turned the deep blue of twilight, I saw my reflection again, not as I had been, or even as I was now, but as something entirely new. A woman who had walked through fire and emerged not undamaged, but stronger. Someone who had learned that real magic isn't about changing how you look, but about changing how you see. "And what about love itself?" I asked softly, feeling the magic pulse between us like a shared heartbeat. His answer was a kiss that tasted of starlight and possibility, of magic and truth, of endings and beginnings all wrapped into one moment of perfect understanding. The realm around us responded, erupting in a display of light and color that reflected the joy in our hearts. When we finally parted, the magical realm around us had transformed. The trees sparkled with thousands of tiny lights, and the air was filled with floating flowers that emitted soft, musical chimes as they drifted past. Even Marlo's lingering shadows had been transformed into gentle twilight, proving that even darkness had its place in the balance of things. "The realm responds to joy," Arlo explained, smiling. "And truth. What truth is that?" "That sometimes the most powerful magic of all is simply allowing yourself to be loved exactly as you are. That beauty isn't about perfection. It's about authenticity. About embracing all of yourself, even the parts you once thought were broken." Hand in hand, we walked back toward the door to his shop, but I knew I wouldn't be using it to run away anymore. I had found something far more valuable than the perfect face I'd lost. I had found myself, and in doing so, found love that saw beneath the surface to the magic that had been there all along. The scars remained, but now they shimmered with an inner light that matched the magic I'd discovered within myself. My blind eye, once a source of shame, had become a window to seeing things others missed, the subtle magics that danced at the edges of the ordinary world. Each morning, when I looked in the mirror, I saw not the beauty queen I'd once been, but something far more precious. A woman who had learned to see her own worth. Arlo transformed his shop into a sanctuary for others like me, people seeking not just physical healing, but spiritual transformation. Together we helped them discover their own inner magic, teaching them that true beauty flows from accepting all parts of oneself, even the broken ones. Marlowe's shadows never fully disappeared, but they served as a reminder that even darkness has its purpose in teaching us to appreciate the light. As I stood in our magical realm, watching new seekers discover their own power, I realized that some accidents aren't accidents at all, but doorways to destiny. My scars had led me here, to this love, to this purpose, to this understanding that true beauty isn't about being flawless. It's about being fearlessly, authentically yourself. "Ready for your next lesson?" Arlo asked, his eyes twinkling with mischief and love as he pulled me close. The magical lights around us danced in response to our joy, creating patterns of light and shadow that told their own stories of transformation. I smiled, feeling the magic pulse beneath my skin like a second heartbeat, my scars glowing with inner starlight. With you. Always. And so our story continued, not as a tale of lost beauty regained, but as something far more magical, a journey of discovering that sometimes the most beautiful things in life are born from our deepest wounds, and that true love sees not with the eyes, but with the heart.